we'll probably get going. So thank you to everybody who's joined tonight. I just want to welcome and thank you for attending Transforming Autism's first Early Years Conference. I'm Sonia Hughes, a trustee with Transforming Autism, and I'll chair the conference tonight. First, I wanted to just go through some logistics for everybody, and then we'll jump into the session. So we have an hour and 15 minutes scheduled for speakers, and then 30 minutes at the end, we'll have Q&A. We'll have everyone muted for the session. So we ask if you could please put any questions you have into the Q&A section on Teams, and then we will have our panelists answer your questions at the end of the session. We've hidden attendee names for privacy. So if you do want to introduce yourself or chat with others, we do have the chat function open. And finally, we are going to send the slide material that we present today out to everybody after the session. There will also be contact details and information at the end in the slide deck. So to the extent that you want to reach out or interested in learning more or just want to contact us, the contact details will be available for you. So I just wanted to introduce myself quickly. I'm looking forward to the session today. As a new trustee, I've been really energized by the work that's being done within the team. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to share with you today. As someone who's a late diagnosed autistic myself, I'm really grateful for organizations like Transforming Autism who are focused on early years support for parents and families and focus on changing the conversation and approach to autism. When I was going through the diagnostic process myself and speaking with my mom about what I was like as a child, she recounted her struggles of being dismissed by doctors while having a gut feeling that something just wasn't right. That was a long time ago at this point, and so there were many other factors at play, but it made me sad to think of what it must have been like for her as a new mom, seeing that I was not okay, but being told I was fine and that she was just probably overreacting. It's for this reason that I'm drawn to the work of Transforming Autism, our focus on improving the early years for autistic children and supporting parents through education and community can be life-altering for both parents and children. So while a lot has changed since I was a child, I think most of us would agree we're still far away from where we should be in supporting autistic children and their families, which is why this work is so important. With that, I want to hand over to Tracy Pepper, the CEO of Transforming Autism. She's going to take you through a brief introduction of who we are and provide background for the research that we're going to present today. So Tracy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, everybody. It's so great to be here. And the conference has been so long in the making with the research starting last year. So it's a pleasure to be talking to you today about all the work that has gone on with RECAP and Open University and Transforming Autism. I'm going to start off with a very short introduction about the charity for those who don't know us. I'm sure many of you do, and then walk you through the structure of the day before handing over to Theodora and Lucy. So next slide, please, Roger. So the charity was formed in 2017 by parents of autistic children. Many of you know Guy Shahar and Gilles Polenc, who are both still working and supporting the charity. And we provide early years support to children up to 12 years old. The work that we do is in the home, face-to-face, but also online through our First Steps Confident Autism Parenting and our Schools Transition Programme. And today we're going to be focusing on First Steps, our very first programme developed in conjunction with Norland College and Norland Foundation, and also through Theodora, who's with us today. We've supported over 170 families since 2021 when our programmes started being delivered, and all the work we do is for free. So we fundraise every penny to make sure that families get the support that they need. Next slide. Thanks, Roger. Our aims are very simple. We want to provide that crucial direct support that Sonia talked about for autistic children and their families when it can make that profound lifelong difference, to make sure that they can go on and not experiencing the challenges of autism in adulthood and live happy and fulfilling lives. Secondly, we want to change the mainstream perceptions of autism, particularly in children, by reframing autism, speaking about it positively and with confidence. And the reason we're here today is part of the work we want to do is to contribute to the evidence base and research into early years support, and trying to raise a profile and a voice to move money from further down in the system back into early years to make sure we can support as many young children as we can. And our long-term vision is simple. We want all autistic children to reach their potential, and we'd love them to all have the support that they need by the time they get to school age at 4 years old. Before I get into the programme structure, I just want to hand over to Colette Christensen, Dr. Colette Christensen from the Open University, who's made the research possible that we're going to hear about today. So, Colette, if you'd like to take us through the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Tracy. So this project was funded through what we call the Open Societal Challenge Programme. So Open Societal Challenge Programme was something that was set up within the OU to try and make sure we had interdisciplinary teams that were actually, their research was making a real world difference. So projects like what Transforming Autism does is absolutely what we're trying to do, things that make difference in society. And the programme was recently extended from being an internal research programme to collaborations with charities, and we had a Challenge Us competition. It was open to UK charities. It was also open to businesses based in Milton Keynes, where the Open University is, and there were lots of proposals, many more than we expected, and 25 are the most promising, of which we're delighted that Transformers was one of those. They're being funded and supported, and we have really enjoyed joining the team at Transforming Autism. We've now got a team that's got a lot of different experiences and skills, and we're trying to embed those research skills within the team. And we were able to fund an internship to join the team, which made a big difference to making sure there was actually resource to carry on the project and do all the hard bits that need putting together. So we've enjoyed working with Tracy and her team so far, and we really look forward to being able to collaborate where we can build on the great work we've done so far and extend it out into bigger projects. And I'll hand back to Tracy.
Thank you, Colette. And I should say, as Chief Executive of the charity, that the resources that the Open University have provided us with have been so fundamental to being able to do this work. As we said, we fundraise every penny, and we want to make sure that as much of that goes into delivery of programs as possible. So research isn't always on the top of our things of being able to afford to do. So we are extremely grateful to the support from the Open University and the advice and guidance that both Colette and Cloudy, who is another member from the Open University, have provided us with. It's been invaluable. Thank you very much. Okay, let me take us into the main act of the evening then. Next slide, please, Roger. So the aim of the presentation that you're going to see tonight is to share the salient findings from the evaluation of first steps, which was piloted back in 2021 and now being provided to families right across Transforming Autism. We also want to share with you the value of the programme to children and to the families that we supported, and the changes that have affected the children and families and beyond that. We want to share some good practice with you provided by the therapist, and also some of the lessons that we've learned and what we're going to do moving forward with the First Steps programme. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the overview of the presentation and what you're going to see. First of all, as we've already done now, we've talked about the collaboration and the key contributors. We'll talk about the aims and objectives of the evaluation in a second, but there'll then be a presentation by Theodora, who was one of the main instigators and developers in the programme. And she's been with us and has been sharing her advice and guidance right throughout the research project. Thank you, Theodora. We'll then go through the research project itself, a brief overview of the methodology and the participants, and then share with you the key findings, both for the families, the children and the therapists. The Transforming Autism overview we've already done, so we've saved a little bit of time there. But I hope that gives you an idea of what the structure of the next 45-50 minutes is going to be. And I think I've got my final slide, if not the second final one, Roger, please. I should say a big thank you to everybody before we start that's been involved with this project. Lucy, who you're going to see later, who was the lead researcher on the project and founder and chief executive of RECAP. Dr. Claudia Thomas and Dr. Colette Christensen, both from the Open University, who we've spoken about already. Dr. Theodora, who is the lead on the First Steps development and has been advising on the research, and 3 of the volunteers from Transforming Autism, who it's been lovely to involve in the project. Carla O'Sullivan, who benefited from a research internship with the Open University, Faiza Hassan, who's been helping with the evaluation, and Eloise Krausen. So thank you very much to all of those for their hard work. And finally, Roger. So just to recap, we have 4 organisations involved in the research altogether: Transforming Autism, RECAP as the researcher, Early Years Advisors, and the Open University. And the research objectives that we set out to achieve were to identify the progress made by children from the goals that were set when they were going through the First Steps programme, identify the changes and progress in any parent goals that were set by the programme, identify the elements of the programme that influence those goals, both positively and negatively, and any restrictive and inhibiting elements. And of course, not on the slide, but what we wanted to do with the research is look at how we could improve the programme and evolve it and take it to the First Steps too. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Sonia, who will take care of the rest of the proceedings and introduce Theodora.
Thanks, Tracy. First, before we move into the presentation on First Steps, I did want to acknowledge and thank Janet Rose from the Norland College and Foundation. I think she's on the call today. So Norland's funding and partnership with Transforming Autism is what led to the development of the First Steps program. So we wouldn't be here this evening talking about the program or the research without the support of Norland College and Foundation. So thank you, Janet. So now, as Tracy mentioned, we're going to move into the key part of tonight's discussion, which is the First Steps program. Papa Theodora is going to lead us through an overview of the program itself, and then we'll talk more about the research. So Theodora, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Good evening, everyone. As Sonia said, I'm Theodora, Papa Theodora, and Tracy mentioned my role in First Steps. I led the development of First Steps program. That was back in 21-22. And we worked on this program for almost 10 months. I worked on this project, and I had the support of a research assistant, thanks to the funding from Norland Foundation. But also I worked with a team consisting of child psychotherapists, pediatric occupational therapists, parents of autistic children, and autism experts. The program is based or informed by the latest scientific evidence. We did actually an extensive literature review before starting developing the program. However, from my point of view, it was very important to look at the scientific evidence from the perspective of the therapist, as well of parents of autistic children. It's not just enough for someone to take the evidence, interpret, and translate into a program. It was important to understand what does it mean for professional practice, what does it mean for parents. So the program, it was informed by the latest scientific evidence. However, it was very much in collaboration with a large team who worked on voluntary basis, actually, over 10 months on the development of this project. I looked at this program and worked on this program as a researcher, but also as an early years educator who has worked for a long time in early years education, in mainstream and special education, although that was quite a long time ago and in a completely different context. But at the back of my head, it was always, what does it mean for practice? So before I go and provide a very, very brief overview of the program, I just want to say a few words. How do we understand autism? Autism is understood to be a complex neurological and brain development condition. It is characterized by excessive neural connections known as synapses and or disruption of synchronization of the two hemispheres of the brain. It is caused by complex and dynamically interlinked factors, genetic, environmental, and epigenetic. It is a lifelong condition, but its developmental trajectory can be altered. This, however, requires that we really detect signs of autism early in life, and we provide appropriate support. And that was the basis of this program. Next slide, please, Sonia. Okay, who is the program for? The program is mainly for children up to the age of 4 years and their parents and primary caregivers. It is for children who may have a diagnosis or children whose parents have noticed signs of autism. It is implemented by trained and experienced pediatric occupational therapists and child psychotherapists at home with regular visits. So both of them separately or together visit the family at home. Why up to the age of 4? There are several reasons for this. The first one is this age group is underdiagnosed, although the age has lowered to 3 to 4 years old. Still, there is underdiagnosis of autism in this particular age group. More importantly, there is very little support for families. And crucially, this is the period of life which really shapes children's developmental trajectory. The experiences which the children have at this age is crucial. Next slide, please, Sonia. Okay, the program is of the duration of 12 weeks. We have 4 weeks where the therapists gather various information in order to assess the child's and the family's strengths, capacities, and resources. I've started from this. It's not only about the needs and challenges and difficulties. It doesn't mean that these are ignored, but we start from the position of strength. The therapists provide an initial assessment, which they discuss with parents, so there is a shared understanding, or parents may have their own perspective on this. And also, this initial assessment is there to set the initial goals during the home visits. So there is a shared understanding. It's not just the therapists who are the experts. The parents are the experts, actually. Then we have 6 weeks of home visits, and the number of visits may vary from family to family, and that depends on the goals which they have set out, and also the visits which each of the occupational therapists and child psychotherapists conduct may also vary. Again, that depends on the goals which which are set out. And then we have 2 weeks. This is a debriefing period where the therapists provide the final assessment. They look at the progress which the child has done, parents have done, and they discuss this with parents in order to move forwards, to have some recommendations if further support is required, and this support may be provided by Transforming Autism or by other services. The next step, please. I'm mindful here that I've got only 15 minutes.
Yeah, there's about 8 minutes left, Theodora.
So the key underlying principles of the program, this is very important. The program is based on the position that signs of autism can be detected and diagnosed early in life. This is the first thing. The second point is that early signs of autism concern actually sensory sensitivity and motor coordination. And there is a reciprocity between sensory sensitivity, motor coordination, and affective and emotional expression. This is significant in children's early life when their communication and interactions are largely non-verbal. But then we know that even among adults, most of our communication and exchanges are non-verbal. But for early years, it's very, very important. And the third key principle is that early experiences are crucial in shaping children's brain architecture and determining their developmental trajectory. This is important, especially when we think that autism is considered to be a neurological condition and lack of synchronization in the brain hemisphere. The implementation of the program takes a strengths and the capacity building approach, invest in playful and relational approaches. Next slide, please. Okay, I have included here a few slides which elaborate further on the key principles of the program. I don't have much time to go through all these slides, but I have included them because I'm aware that this PowerPoint presentation is going to be shared with all attendees. But also if there are questions during the question and answer session, I can elaborate. So I will skip this one. Mainly this one actually reiterates the issues of early detection of signs of autism and also early signs of autism concerning the sensory and motor coordination challenges. The next slide, please. I think this is quite interesting. I've said I'm not going to elaborate, but I can't help myself. This is actually quite interesting because very often we focus on social and emotional expression or challenges, cognitive functioning, communication, and language difficulties. But this is quite interesting. Trevarthen and Delafit-Butt, they've conducted an extensive literature review, and they've concluded actually that these aspects of autism are considered to be secondary consequences to poor early sensory motor and affective integration. For me as an early years educator, that was very, very important. Working with young children, I very much in my early pedagogical practice, it was based on kinesthesis. Kinesis is motor, aesthesis, sensory expression. So, and that really brought everything together. And that becomes the main underlying principle of the first steps. The next slide, please. Yes, okay. In a very simplified way, the brain consists of billions of neurons, which they are connected with each other. They communicate with each other. They are called synapses. Those connections are called synapses. And these synapses are subject to experiences which we have early in life. And not only, but mainly early in life. So when we have experiences which are frequent, repeated, consistent, intense, these experiences rewire and change the brain's synaptic connections. And experiences can be positive or adverse. And of course, they have different impact. And perhaps the next figure, next slide, please. Just illustrates this process of synaptic connections. When newborns, they have very few synaptic connections. By the age of 2, these synaptic connections, they have increased. And we can see here that there is this thick network of synapses. But from the age of 2 to the age of 4, the pruning process starts. Because if we leave these synaptic connections like this, the world sounds and it is quite chaotic. So depending on the experiences which the children have, certain synaptic connections are reinforced. And if we understand autism as a neurological and brain development condition, this is very important. This is why early support, when we identify or detect early signs of autism, is very, very important. The next slide, please. Okay, why strengths-based and playful relational approach? We start from the position that all individuals are born with inherent capacities and capabilities. And this is what we want to strengthen. We don't start from the position of challenges, of problems, limitations, or whatever word we want to use. So we start from the position of strength, and through first steps and the support which parents receive and the direct work with the children, we want to enhance the inherent capacities and capabilities. And relational approach, because this is again is an inherent biological need, and human connection offers this sense of safety and security. And playful approach, and I will make here a distinction actually between play and playful. There are different types of play. Not all of them can be playful, and playfulness can be part of everyday interactions. So the focus on being playful, having this joy, the enjoyment, and this is something which ensures feelings of safety and security. The next slide, please. I think I'm going to skip this slide because it needs quite a lot of discussion. But in effect, it demonstrates this intersubjective, the very subtle, unconscious process between sensory sensitivity, motor coordination, and affective emotional expression. The next, but happy to talk about this in the question and answer session if everyone wants to hear about it. What I want to say in conclusion is this: the program is for children and their parents, but it's primarily aimed at parents. And through this program, what we want is for parents to understand their autistic child, their strengths, capabilities, and potentiality, to focus on this, because it's very easy to focus on what doesn't work very well, to focus on the problems. Just to see these glimpses of light and enjoyment, and to develop skills and capacities which are easily habituated in the family everyday life and functioning. It's not something which we do on certain time, for example, quality time, half an hour of play with children as quality time. It is really about acquiring the skills and the competencies and becoming a habit. It's the everyday life. So this is the concluding part from my part, but I just want to say something. I want to thank all the child psychotherapists and occupational therapists, the parents, and the experts of autism working with me during the development of this program. And I know Dr. Janet Rose has been mentioned here, but I need to say this, that the Norland Foundation funds local projects, and Transforming Autism is not a local organization. However, given the importance of this project, Dr. Janet Rose, who at the time was my line manager, supported the application to the foundation, to Norland Foundation. And more importantly, she has agreed as my line manager for me to spend considerable time of my daily work on this project. So Janet, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Over to you,
Theodore.
Sonia.
Yeah, thank you, Theodore, so much. So now we're going to move over to the research aspect of looking at first steps and yeah, what's come out of the research that Lucy Wheeler and others in the organization have worked so hard on. So Lucy, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. As Sonia just said, my name's Lucy, and I was the lead researcher on this project. I'm the founder of RECAP and also a research fellow and PhD candidate in the School of Education at Anglia Ruskin University. I'm also a late diagnosed autistic parent myself, got my own diagnosis last year, and I have a daughter who got her autism diagnosis when she was 16, so we didn't get any early intervention. So I have a real personal and professional interest in the wonderful work that Transforming Autism are doing. And I'm here today to share with you the research projects that we did. Next slide, please. Okay, so we used a three-phase mixed methods approach to our research to build that rounded picture of the programme's impact. So our first phase focused on the document review. We examined all of the available session notes, assessments, and the review reports as well. And this gave us a detailed understanding of how the programme had been implemented and highlighted where any kind of gaps or inconsistencies in the recorded information was. Phase 2 centred around the interviews. We spoke with 7 families, asking them to reflect on their experiences on what aspects of the programme worked well, what challenges they faced, and how they felt any progress had been made. We also interviewed all of the programme's therapists. This included 3 occupational therapists, 3 child psychologists, and the lead therapist as well. And these conversations gave us insight into the professional side of the programme, how the team approached their work, what they noticed in terms of outcomes, and what they learned through the process themselves. Then we took this all in and we went through our analysis stage. We used a thematic synthesis, drawing both on deductive and inductive approaches, where themes emerged naturally, and also we were guided by the programme's aims as well. And we brought everything together, and this process really helped us create a rich and balanced understanding of the programme's real-world impact. Next slide, please. So just very briefly, this table, and I know it will be sent out so you can have a proper look later, but this gives a quick overview of the families and children who took part in the programme. So as I said, we worked with 7 families, and the children's age ranges from just over 2 years to around 4 years old. Interestingly, all of the participants were boys. Most came from 2-parent households, and families typically had up to 2 siblings with ages ranging from newborn to 6 years old. In terms of cultural representation, the group was predominantly white British, but there was representation from an Indian background, offering a small but valuable degree of diversity. Regarding diagnosis, 2 out of the 7 children had a formal autism diagnosis at the start of the programme. The remaining children were identified as having autistic traits or broader developmental differences, which meant the group reflected quite a range of needs and profiles. 6 out of 7 children were also attending nursery or preschool, so the therapists often had to coordinate their work across home and nursery environment. So when it came to caregiver involvement, mothers mostly attended all sessions, and there were some fathers involved too, typically joining for specific sessions or progress reviews. The sessions were mainly home-based, and there were some visits that were taken at nursery. And as we touched upon earlier, the participation was 12 weeks for the First Steps programme, with weekly input from the occupational therapist and the child psychotherapist, and they averaged around 1 hour per therapist per week. So this gives us a bit of an overview of what our participants looks like for this study. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows us the areas of assessments that therapists use to guide the goal setting for both the children and the families. These areas were identified through the content analysis that we did at the beginning, and so they reflect what the therapists were focusing on in practice. And it covered 6 broad domains. So the first, looking at motor coordination and sensory sensitivity, which included things like eating, sleeping, sensory processing, and self-care, all crucial for daily routines and regulation. The second area focused on affective and emotional expression and behaviour, looking at how children express their emotions, their sense of safety, regulation, and engagement with others and their environment. Communication and language was another major focus, especially around things like eye contact, language use, and how children responded to others. Looking at social interactions, including how children related to parents, engaged in one-to-one time, managed routines and transitions, and responded to social situations. Play interactions and engagements were assessed in depth, observing how children played with their parents and with familiar people, their level of enjoyment, attention span, and ability to initiate or sustain play. And finally, therapists also considered transitions outside of the family environment, particularly how children adapted to settings like nurseries or preschool. So this gave us a real kind of holistic understanding of each child's strengths and their challenges, ensuring that the goals were meaningful, family-centered, and grounded in that real-life context. Next slide, please. So this one focused on the areas of assessment used for goal setting with parents and primary caregivers. So just as it did with the children, looking at the program documentation and identified the themes that the therapists use when setting up goals for the parents. These areas reflected both the strengths and challenges that influenced family engagement and progress. So looking at relationships and interactions with the child, therapists would work with parents to build awareness of their children's needs, strengthening their understanding of their child's cues and routines, and support both attention and independence. A big part of this was helping parents feel confident in applying new skills within their daily life. Second area relates to play and engagement with the child, so encouraging parents to explore new ways of playing, to join in with their child's interests and to make playtime a meaningful opportunity for connection and learning. The third area captured parents' personal and family experience. This included discussions about parental traits, family trauma or stress, emotional availability, and how cultural factors or family opinions shape that engagement. Therapists supported parents to reflect on their own feelings and to build confidence in sharing their experiences. Another key area concerns the relationship between parent and therapist. Here, trust and emotional connection were key, creating a space where parents feel safe, supported, and able to reflect on their child's progress. Collaboration and following through on therapist suggestions were also central to success. And finally, that availability of support and what that looked like in the broader context, including helping with help from extended family, friends, other professionals. And this could really either strengthen or limit the family's capacity to implement those strategies that they were learning. So this really helped with the family's growth and confidence. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of the key findings. So here we've summarised the key findings from across all phases of the research and what they tell us about the value of this programme. So overall, the outcomes were consistent and meaningful at every level for parents, for children, for therapists, even across the wider system. So starting with parents, the programme was often described as transformational. Parents spoke about developing a much deeper understanding of their child's needs and behaviours. They felt more confident in responding to challenges and had practical strategies that they could use day to day. And for many, this led to a real sense of empowerment and progress at home. For our children, we saw steady and meaningful improvements, particularly in communication, regulation and play. Children sometimes began using new words or signs, engaging more in imaginative play, managing transitions with greater ease. Parents described these as milestone moments that really made a tangible difference to their family life. And for our therapists, the programme was valuable professionally as well. That dual lens approach, combining perspectives from occupational therapy and child psychotherapy, really encouraged that reflective practice and collaborative learning. Therapists said they learned not only from one another, but from the families themselves as well, which is amazing. And finally, that system-wide impact, that was really clear. Strategies developed through the programme were carried over into nursery or preschool settings, influencing wider staff practice and support with processes like EHCP applications, which we all know are very challenging. So in summary for this, the programme delivered a change on multiple levels, supporting children's development, strengthening families and enhancing that professional collaboration, which is really powerful. Next slide, please. So it's always nice to hear the voices of the participants when we do research. So I think it's really important to have a quick look at some of these quotes, which were directly from our parents. because that really captures the true meaning behind it rather than just looking at statistics alone. So you can see here parents describing finding the programme like gold dust, you know, talking about how rare early intervention opportunities are and how this programme gave them real confidence in their parenting approach. That sense of reassurance and validation was a real recurring theme across many families. This second parent reflecting on how early support had changed the trajectory of their child's life. You know, they felt that engaging in the program at such a young age has had a really profound developmental impact, helping to lay a really firm foundation. And finally, that parent speaking about emotional value, you know, having someone in your corner who supports you, really emphasizing how transformative it is to feel understood and supported, not just as a parent of a child with additional needs, but as a whole family. And this is really the heart of early intervention, that meaningful connection, empowerment and long-term change that extends far beyond when the programme finishes. Next slide, please. So here we're looking at some of the goals towards which the therapists worked. So starting with the children, the focus on building the foundational skills that underpin everyday functioning and participation. Therapists working on sensory regulation, helping children manage sensory input and reduce dysregulation or meltdowns, which in turn supported calmer and more consistent engagement. Another key area, communication and language, encouraging things like eye contact, use of words or signs, and expressive play, helping children connect with others and express themselves more effectively. Social play and engagement, where the emphasis was on joint attention, imaginative play, and positive interactions with peers or siblings, all crucial for social development. Focusing on motor coordination and independence, you know, really supporting children to develop confidence in activities like dressing, feeding, toileting, all those everyday tasks that help to build autonomy. And finally, focus on emotional regulation, helping children express their feelings safely, recognise emotions and begin to build some empathy. And turning to parents and families, the major goal was increasing that attunement and understanding, helping parents recognise and respond to their child's cues, especially around sensory needs, aiming to build parents' confidence and emotional availability, empowering them to support their children. A focus on structured and playful routines, embedding those therapy strategies into daily life in realistic and sustainable ways. And strengthening that parent-therapist partnership was also really essential, developing trust, collaboration and reflective practice throughout the process. And finally, the programme aimed to nurture that family resilience, supporting those really important sibling relationships, improving collaborations with nurseries and helping families feel more connected and capable as well. Next slide, please. So the outcomes we observed for children as a result of the programme. So overall, the children became calmer, more communicative and better able to express emotions. Families and therapists alike described seeing a real shift in the children's ability to self-regulate and connect with others. Many children who initially had little or no speech began to communicate using either words, short phrases or Makaton signs. This development not only supported interaction at home, but also improved engagement in nursery and social settings as well. In terms of regulation, there was clear progress. Children experienced fewer overwhelm, handled transitions more smoothly, showed stronger, more consistent engagement during sessions. And play was another area of significant change as well. We saw children moving away from solitary or repetitive play and more towards imaginative, interactive and social play, often initiating games with their parents or siblings. Finally, there were meaningful gains in independence, everyday activities like toileting, feeding and dressing. These practical improvements gave children a sense of achievement and helped to reduce the stress for the families as well. Next slide, please. So some more quotes for you. So these ones are around progress and child development. So highlighting really a leap in communication. You can see this parent here talking about how their child went from using very few words to speaking in short sentences, mummy, hungry, toast, cookie, chocolate, some individual words there as an example. Really reflects that huge developmental step for that family. Another parent described seeing more communication and more understanding, but linking it to their own personal learning, you know, saying, I think that's because of understanding him and understanding how his brain works. And that's such a powerful insight, because it really shows how important it is to support the parent's understanding and how that directly then supports the child's growth. The next parent describing a shift in engagement and social play, the child preferring solitary activities now plays collaboratively, interacting with both of their parents. Parents talking about overall transformation, started speaking, understanding has improved, speaking about school readiness because getting ready to go to reception. Really, really important moments here described as the only way that they can be, and from the experiences of the parents, which is really a joy to hear. Next slide, please. So the impact on families, continuing with our key findings. So in many ways, the impact on families was just as profound as the developmental changes that we spoke about with the children. Parents consistently described gaining confidence and practical strategies, which really helped them to understand and support their children day to day. Many said they finally felt like they had the tools and the knowledge to manage challenges more calmly and more effectively. A recurring theme was parents feeling more in control and less isolated. Several described the programme as life-changing, not only because of the skills they learned, but because it gave them hope and reassurance, and they no longer felt alone navigating their child's needs. Families also reported stronger relationships and improved routines at home. As communication and regulation improved, parents noticed a greater sense of calm and connection generally within family life. And another key area of impact was collaboration with the nurseries and with the therapists, as we've said previously. Parents became stronger advocates for their children, helping to ensure that strategies were consistent across home and then the nursery environment as they continued on after the programme. And finally, many parents talked about a deep emotional shift, moving from stress, frustration, uncertainty to a place of understanding, empathy, and that confidence that we've spoken about. That emotional transformation was often described as one of the most valuable outcomes of all for those parents. Next slide, please. And a few more quotes here, really speaking about how their own understanding and confidence has grown as caregivers. You know, we grew as parents, we learned so much from our child. And this one, I love this one, we finally knew how to play. It's such a small sentence, but it captures something amazing. Learning how to play, learning how to use play as a way of building connection and joy and mutual understanding. It's really challenging, and understanding as a parent that play can be used as a way to relate and connect with your child is a real overwhelming thing to come to understand. And hearing these parents speak in this way has been amazing. And together you can see these voices really show how the programme fostered that empowerment and connection and resilience, giving the families both the tools and the capacity to continue to support their children long after their sessions finished. And next slide, please. Okay, so when we look at the findings as a whole, it's clear that the programme delivered consistent observable gains for every child and family involved, which is amazing. What's particularly meaningful is how these games showed up, not just in assessments, but in everyday life. You know, we saw many emotional breakthroughs, moments of affection, empathy, sibling bonding that families described as deeply moving. Parents often spoke about seeing new levels of joy and connection, which became visible markers to them of progress within the home. There was also a reframed understanding. Parents began to see communication differently, as I touched upon earlier. Instead of waiting for words, they recognised the many ways that their child was already communicating to them, you know, through gestures, signs, role play, even those processing pauses. That shift really helped parents tune into their child's world and respond in a way that encouraged that growth. And families also celebrated what they were calling everyday victories, those small but incredibly meaningful achievements like smoother meal times, progress with toileting, being able to enjoy a trip to the park without distress. These moments built confidence for both parents and children. And finally, there were clear pathways to connection. Play and motor activities worked hand in hand to strengthen relationships, provide the foundation for learning, belonging, emotional security. So rather than isolated improvements, what we saw were integrated changes, emotional, relational, practical. They all made a tangible difference in family life. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's really important to explore the core therapeutic approaches that we use throughout the programme alongside listening to the feedback from the parents. So a key approach used with this was this play-based child-led intervention. Our child psychotherapist leaned heavily on play as the main medium for connection and growth, using role play, characters, messy play, obstacle courses, even nature-based sessions. Play became a bridge for communication, social connection, and emotional regulation. It allowed children to process feelings and practice new behaviours in a safe and creative space, while at the same time modelling relational strategies that parents could use at home. Another core approach was sensory motor regulation, led primarily by the occupational therapists. Their work was consistently grounded in sensory profiling and regulation techniques, things like trampoline work, towel squeezes, body brushing, stretchy bands, sensory props. This regulation first approach stabilized the children's bodies and nervous systems, creating that readiness needed for engagement, communication, and learning. Another element was the in-the-moment parent coaching. Across all cases, therapists provided that live reflective guidance, narrating their thought processes during challenging moments, explaining behaviour step by step, and modelling how to join a child's play. Parents described this as one of the most valuable aspects because it gave them practical tools that they could use daily. It reduced dependency on the professionals and built that long-lasting confidence. And therapists also use strength-based framing throughout. Instead of focusing on deficits, they helped parents to see the potential within their child's differences. For example, a long processing time was reframed in its own way to allow for deep concentration. Finally, the team worked really well within systemic integration. Occupational therapists often extended their work into the nurseries and preschools, supporting staff training, embedding strategies in those environments where needed. And so looking ahead, the feedback and analysis suggests some important next steps, which we'll discuss in a bit more depth in the next coming slides. But to deepen that integration between the therapists, strengthen the goal setting process, and providing regular written feedback were some of the ones that were spoken about. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the First Steps programme has proven to be genuinely life-changing for some of these families. What makes it so powerful is the way that it combines the practical, body-based strengths of occupational therapy with the relational and emotional depth of child psychotherapy. Together, these approaches created a model that truly met families where they were, both emotionally and practically. Parents and therapists alike described remarkable progress, not just in children's communication, regulation, play, independence, but also importantly in parents' growing confidence, their skills and their sense of hope. The families spoke of feeling more connected, more equipped and more at ease in understanding their children. That home first dual therapist model was a real key strength. It fostered trust, empowerment and meaningful connection, which benefits the extended beyond the family home, into nurseries, any sort of processes you might encounter as a parent and wider family systems. Of course, as with everything, there are areas for refinement. Some families and therapists noted that clearer onboarding, goal setting, cross-therapist integration could make the process even smoother. But overall, the message was one of deep value and transformative impact for the families involved in this. Next slide, please. So just to close out, this slide brings together the key recommendations that emerged from both families and therapists, focusing on how we can strengthen and sustain the impact of First Steps going forward. And they fall into three connected areas. So firstly, looking at the support, mentoring and training, particularly to deepen the understanding of that interdisciplinary nature of the programme. Therapists spoke about how valuable the cross-professional collaboration was between occupational therapy and child psychotherapy, but also the need for continued training to really strengthen that intraprofessional practice, helping each discipline really understand the other methods, aims and language. Secondly, we identified the need to strengthen the systems for program implementation. And then finally, the strengthen the systems for program evaluation as well, creating more regular feedback loops between families, therapists and service leads to really allow the program to track progress in real time and measure the outcomes more consistently. But ultimately, these recommendations really reflect what both families and professionals told us about First Steps is already making such a profound difference. And with the right development on, it really has the potential to become a leading model of early intervention practice. Next slide, please, which I think is the final one. So next steps. So as we move forward, where are we going with this? Because obviously research doesn't just stop, it keeps going and gets better and better. So our first step was to review the current program in detail, and obviously going forward, updating it based on the feedback from the family, the therapists, as well as the emerging recommendations from this research. We're also developing a research paper to formally document our approach, our findings and the impact we've observed, and this will really contribute to the wider evidence base for early intervention and interdisciplinary practice. A third strand will be to share the research and recommendations with parents, practitioners and key stakeholders, which is exactly what we're doing right now, getting out there, talking about it to the people that really can benefit from it. So we hope to continue to do that as well. And finally, creating accessible resources, materials, guides, tools that our partners can use to embed this approach within their own settings. And really ensure the learning from First Steps continues to grow and reach more families. So really hope that these next steps will aim to build on the strong foundations of this project and support ongoing development, sustainability and continued sharing of best practice in early intervention. And I will pass back to Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I mean, that you were able, I think, to capture so much in a short period of time and very succinctly, and I think it was just tremendously interesting and so refreshing to see the amazing comments from parents and practitioners. So it's good to hear it's working. I think then it's just figuring out how do we make sure we can amplify the impact, which is some of the points you made at the end. So no, really exciting work. Thank you so much to you for the work you've done, for presenting, for Theodora, your presentation and the work you've done throughout the process. And again, to Norland College and Foundation and Open University for your partnership. Just a reminder for those on the call, if you do have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A. But I think we'll move on now. So those are the key points about First Steps. We'd like to just introduce a couple of additional programs that we're working on. So first is what we're calling Play Academy, and Nicholas Cookberg is going to take us through just an overview of what Play Academy is, and it's something we've just kicked off. So I think it's in its early stages.
Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah.
I'll start here. Thank you so much. I'm Nicholas Kuckerberg, Senior Clinical Advisor and Program Architect of our latest Transforming Autism project, the Play Academy, as Sonia was just saying. It's an online parent-mediated early years support program for families of young autistic children. At the recent Jack Tizard Memorial Conference, Professor Simon Baron-Cohen said something that stayed with me. Neurodiversity is the acknowledgement that there's difference, but a truly neuro-affirmative stance is the appreciation and true valuing of that difference in our society. That, for me, is exactly what Transforming Autism stands for. We see autism not as something to be fixed or normalized, but as a meaningful expression of human variation, a different rhythm of perceiving, of thinking, attributing meaning, and connecting that actually enriches us all. Our shared vision in the charity is simple. One day, every autistic child should feel they have a completely natural place in this world and that their way of being is recognized, understood, and above all, valued. The Play Academy was born from this conviction. Early family support should never be about correction, but truly about relationship, mutual understanding, and shared learning. And that's why we called it the Play Academy. It's not a clinic. it's an academy, a place of learning one another's languages, a place of developing this deep appreciation for different neurotypes, and a place for becoming curious about each other's worlds through play. Within the field of early intervention, there's now a broad consensus that parent-mediated developmental approaches yield sustainable and generalizable outcomes. Research from Jonathan Green at Manchester University and colleagues on PACT, the pediatric autism communication therapy, has shown that when parents are supported to notice, to wait for, and to respond to all their child's self-motivated communicative initiatives, both parent synchrony and child social communication improve significantly with long-term effects that persist years after the intervention ends. Synchrony in this context, by the way, referring to the parents' timely and attuned responses to all their child's cues. Similar evidence has emerged from the Jasper approach from Connie Kazari and many others, also video feedback methods such as VIT by George Downing, all of which highlight the central role of parental responsiveness and co-regulation in shaping early developmental pathways. What all these interventions have in common is a shift from treating the child as the object of therapy to positioning the parent as an empowered agent of change. By focusing on the interaction and the interactional system rather than just the individual, these models harness everyday relational environment as the most powerful therapeutic space. Our Play Academy takes this evidence base as its starting point. It builds on what we already know works: parent-led reflection, responsiveness, the amplification of connection through play, and extends it by integrating real-time guidance and reflective practice into one large continuous cycle of learning. While the emphasis on synchrony and attunement remains central, my own work in recent years has focused on an additional and often underestimated dimension: the parent's sense of confidence and self-efficacy within play, referring here to a parent's belief in their own ability to make a very positive difference through their own authentic playfulness. So over the years, I've seen it time and again how parents often live with a quiet fear of doing the wrong thing. And we have to acknowledge, sometimes our well-intentioned early intervention systems can inadvertently amplify that anxiety. Our collective advocacy for the earliest and most intensive support sometimes translates into an atmosphere of haste for parents, exasperating the fear that there's only this very, very narrow window in which to get everything right. Yet, the very processes that foster early development, shared attention, we heard it tonight, emotional attunement, they unfold best when parents feel that time is abundant and stress and pressure are low. Whenever anxiety takes over, play can quickly become effortful, often more educational in focus, and sometimes overly directed. What transforms this dynamic is thus not only teaching parents to be more responsive to their child's initiatives, but to help them recover their own authentic playfulness, their ability to freely initiate and to act and to enjoy. This is the principle at the heart of Amica, an approach for mediated interaction and communication in autism, which I have developed over the past 5 years as an innovative support method to foster greater creative confidence in parental play through remote coaching and video work. I recognize that when parents are supported to follow their own initiatives and their innate expertise with more of a relaxed confidence and autonomy, even when the child chooses to simply observe from the sidelines, the emotional field of the interaction changes profoundly. As the pressure of expectation on the child begins to ease, play becomes readily less about performance and a lot more about playfulness and presence. As we all know, many autistic children are visual learners, and they prefer to watch before joining in. In the Playcademy, we treat this not as disinterest or withdrawal, but we uphold the principle that observation is already participation. And we encourage parents to continue playing, if necessary, with the support and guidance of the coach's presence. As Beebe and Lachman's microanalysis of early interaction suggests, the act of observing is itself a meaningful form of procedural dialogue, a way of perceiving relational timing and learning through moment-to-moment contingency. Contingency referring to the natural back and forth of responding to each other's signals as they happen. So the balance between sensitive following of the child on the one hand, social communication, and confident leading in play on the other becomes crucial. Within this rhythm, the parent honors the child's autonomy, while at times focusing more on their own initiatives, allowing for a reciprocal easing of expectation levels, meaning that the child is free to observe without pressure to join, and the parent is free to act without concern for eliciting immediate engagement. And over time, these two channels of interaction foster what Trevathan describes as these motifs of companionship, the innate human drive to share experience and to enjoy shared states of mind. Our work in the Playcademy is about cultivating exactly that, a space where mutual curiosity and trust can develop naturally. So let's come down to earth and see, how do we actually facilitate this in practice? Families meet their play coach through an online secure video link, very much like the one we use here tonight. So during the live sessions, the coach observes the parent and child on the computer as they play together and remains available as a resource should the parent request real-time guidance that's then delivered through a discrete earpiece worn by the parent in just one ear. And not instructions. No, they are carefully timed cues, maybe to wait, maybe just to follow the child's focus, or to do it again, to pause, to notice, or at times to introduce something new, or weave in a new element into the unfolding flow of play. This part of this session forms the first element of the Playcademy process, direct coaching and live accompaniment during everyday play situations at home. So these interactions are then recorded in the background, including, by the way, all the live prompts, and this recording becomes the basis for the second element of a Playcademy session, video reflection. In this stage of the work, parent and coach watch and analyze selected scenes and short sequences from the recording together. Seeing oneself on video always brings with it a totally new kind of awareness, a chance to observe the interaction with fresh eyes and different lenses. Parents begin to notice how their timing or their tone, the proximity, the physical presence influences the child's attention, their motivation, and their communication. They start to recognize subtle signs of initiative or invitations that may have gone unnoticed while they were immersed in the moment. So this video reflective process strengthens mentalization, the capacity to think about what both parent and child might be experiencing, and enhances reflective function. In essence, parents learn to observe their own participation in the relationship. And this metacognitive perspective deepens both understanding and confidence. Then between the sessions, family continue to integrate these insights into daily life, setting aside the usual 30 minutes each day for play. Applying what has been learned within ordinary routines helps these new patterns become natural, habitual, and sustainable, gradually transforming what Jonathan Green so fittingly calls the transactional environment in which the child develops around the clock. To further support this, we alternate the individual Playcademy sessions with fortnightly peer reflection groups. where parents can share experiences, learn from one another. And these meetings, they foster this important sense of belonging and community that many families describe as both grounding and deeply motivating. So when all these strands come together, real-time coaching, reflective video analysis, daily practice in the home, and regular peer support, they form a coherent and dynamic learning process with the potential to foster enduring relational and developmental change. Each element somehow reinforces the other. Coaching builds confidence. Reflection deepens understanding. Daily practice becomes woven into family life, leading naturally to generalization. So at the moment, we're currently running a small beta test phase with some collaborating families to refine the pacing, structure, technical flow before launching a full pilot in 2026. Feedback from the participating parents so far has been very encouraging. And if you're here in the audience tonight, thank you so much for your participation and your trust. So in conclusion, with the Play Academy, we are following the important paradigm shift in how autism is understood and subsequently supported. Our model has been developed from the ground up within that neuroaffirmative framework through collaboration with autistic adults, with parents of autistic children, and professionals, all of whom have brought their experience and their insight and care into every stage of its creation. In this sense, our Play Academy is more than just a new program developed solely by professionals. It's a shared endeavor shaped by many perspectives, each contributing to a more responsive and affirmative way of accompanying and supporting families in the early years. I want to thank everyone who has been part of this process to date for their generous and insightful contributions. So if there's one message I'd like to close on, it is that here at Transforming Autism, we know in our hearts that autistic children are intrinsically motivated for connection and sharing, and that this connection grows best when there's safety and time and curiosity and trust. In our Play Academy, we hope to offer families a lived experience of relating through play, one that restores confidence, nurtures mutual joy and playfulness, and ultimately invites growth through an appreciation of difference. Thank you very much. And over to you again, Sonia.
Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, no, so again, really interesting and glad we're able to look at remote online options because I think that'll help with coverage. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's in beta testing at the moment, so we'll go live and I think produce more information for families when we're ready to go live fully with the program in 2026. So thank you. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you,
Sonia. So now we want to switch to have Angelica Madrid go through a new online early years parent community that's been recently created and launched, which again is also something we're really excited about. So Angelica, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sonia, from the intro. I'm Angelica, and I have been in the charity for the last couple of years, volunteering as a family service coordinator, and in the last year as a project manager for the early years parent online community. The community was born after receiving feedback from families in our Confident Autism Parenting Workshop that one of the many highlights of the program was the connection and support from parents in similar situations. So we decided to take the challenge and create a safe space for parents to continue supporting each other after that they have completed the program, as well as, of course, having access to the charity support. And thanks to the funding from the National Lottery Community Fund, we could make the online community a reality. We carried out a survey to ask families on their wish list, and the online community was successfully launched in October this year. And we will be playing a video later on, so it will be a very quick presentation. So we are playing the video, and you can have, in that video, you can have an overview of how the community looks like with the different zones for parents to interact with each other with private messaging and a forum, public forum, connect to the therapies, browse resources from the charity, as well as selected partners, and participate in live Q&A sessions with our therapists. And on that note, our next session is scheduled on 3rd December, and it will be about how to manage holidays and festivals with our amazing occupational therapist, Julia, that I think she's today attending this session. So I hope more details will be in the community, and I hope all the parents that they are members, they will join us again. We have our first session last October with Alia, another amazing occupational therapist, and it was really fruitful, and we got very encouraging feedback for the beginnings of the live session in the community. So we are very happy. And if we have any family here listening today that would like the community, they can drop us a note to community manager at transformingautism.org. I think later Sonia will show the contact details in the last slide. And I want to say that membership to the community is free, and as of now, it's only open to families who has been in our programs. And that's all from me, and thank you very much. And the team, if you can play the video, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Angelica. Again, really excited to have the community up and running. And I know you've already gotten tremendous feedback from parents. So I think it's definitely something that was needed, and we listened to parents' feedback and were able to create something for them that I think will continue to grow as more parents and families are involved. So thank you so much for organizing and getting that up and running. It's amazing. So that concludes the presentations for today. I just want to thank everybody again who presented and participated in the discussion so far. I think there is so much going on. We're really glad again to be able to present it to everybody, and really are just excited about continuing to do more of what we're doing, because it shows that it is working. And just need to do more to be able to amplify it more broadly. But thank you to everybody that presented and for all the research and all of the tech support and everything that went into getting this pulled together today. We are going to move on to the panel discussion. So on the panel, we have a few people who you've already met today. So Theodora, Lucy, and Nicholas are on. We also have Andrew Shahan, and we have also Guy Shahar, who is one of the co-founders of Transforming Autism. So I thought what we might do, Guy and Andrew, is have a few questions for you, and you can introduce yourselves as we kick those off. But Guy, just maybe we'll start with you, having co-chaired or co-led the creation of Transforming Autism. Would love to get your thoughts on the research that was presented and the work that's being done so far. Anything that you picked up on, anything that you specifically wanted to call out?
Well, it's really important to me, actually, personally, the results. of this research, because when we started, or when we began the whole concept for the charity Transforming Autism, and when we started turning that into services for families, personally, I had no doubt whatsoever that it would be transformative, because I know from my experience, from the experience of my son, that this is what really makes a difference. And so that's been confirmed all the way down the line with the way that the families have benefited from the testimonials that they've given, from the transformations in their life that they've shared along the years. And today is a really big step, because it's actual confirmation that, almost has the capacity to take this to the outside world and to give it a credibility. And it's not credibility. We don't need credibility because, we have any doubts. We need credibility so that other people can be convinced of the effectiveness of this work, so that we've got the evidence to say that this really works. And so that the new things that we're putting into effect, like the Play Academy that Nicholas beautifully talked about earlier, which we also have no doubt are going to bring about transformational results, we can go into that with a lot more confidence and a lot more credibility, because ultimately our ultimate goal is not just to be working with a few families and bringing about big changes for very few families. It's about changing the narrative about autism, changing the understanding of what potential autistic children have, how that they can grow into adults with a fulfilled, happy life that contributes to society. And every step we take towards showing that that concept makes sense and is real and is borne out by the research and by the services that we're providing, the better. So I'm really personally very happy about what's happened today.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Andrew, if you're on, I guess maybe wanted to get from your viewpoint and vantage point, what were some key things that you took away from the research? Just have to check, because I think Andrew's on. Maybe.
Yes, he was on earlier,
Nope.
Sonia. I'll
Okay,
check again.
we can check.
He is on. Maybe we need to unmute him the way we
him.
unmuted everyone else.
Yeah. Roger,
I've seen him.
do you see him? Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
He should be okay. I'll work on that in the background.
Okay, what we might do, I know we did have a few, thank you to those who posed questions. So maybe we can move to a couple of the questions that we have in the chat and then come back to speak with the others on the panel. So we did have questions come through about what areas of the UK the programs cover, what eligibility criteria there might be, how families get chosen. So we want to cover those off because those are really critical, coming from people who would like to have support. So Tracy, is that something you could speak to?
Yeah, I think I saw in the chat there was a question about how do families get selected for the program.
Yeah.
So families have been finding us via our website, and there's a registration form. So you might also, if you've been on our website, see something that we call Q-Chat, which is a very early, it's an assessment tool. It's not a diagnosis, but we ask parents a series of questions, and at the end of it they get a score, and that score indicates whether they should take advice and guidance on understanding a little bit more about autism and their child. And from there they can use that to register on our website as interested in first steps. If you do register on first steps, one of the family services team will contact you. We then go through an assessment process to make sure that the child and the family are suitable for first steps. And then as soon as we secure funding, then a family is approached to see if they would like to start the programme. So it's as simple as that, really. If there is anyone on the call today that is interested in going through the First Steps programme, then just hop on the website and complete the form. We do approach local authorities and schools for recommendations as well for children who might be appropriate to go on the First Steps programme. So I think the second question that was in the chat was, are we extending out to places like GP surgeries? We would love it. You know, as a charity, we've got limited resources and we need to get our word out about the type of work that we do even further. The referrals have shifted. Once upon a time, we used to only get referrals from online and social media posts that we made ourselves. But now we get referrals direct from GP surgeries who know about us and schools. So very much we'd like people who've attended today to share the work that we're doing and definitely connect with us on social media and make sure that people in their networks get access to the support we provide.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, there was another question that's similar. What areas of the UK do we cover, and what is the eligibility requirements? But I think the response is the same if they can go to the website and connect with us that way.
Yeah, I should just say for First Steps, we're currently operating in Essex, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, parts of London. This, like everything else, is always subject to funding. So if there are funders on the call today who think they might be able to support us in areas outside of those, then please do get in touch, because we would welcome taking First Steps right across the country. All of the confident autism parenting programs that we run, and I know there is a funder on here today who has funded us on confident autism parenting. Thank you, FSJ, for your support. That is online and we reach families throughout the UK. And the intention is with Play Academy, because it's online, again, we'll be national with that programme.
Great, thank you. Nicholas, there's a question on here. Play Academy sounds like it includes elements of, I think it's DIR, floor time. Is it related?
That's a very good question. I don't think you could really say that any play-based, floor-based program that helps children come into connection, contact, and playfulness doesn't sound like, I mean, the other programs. I think, you know, that is the thing. If you start looking into different programs, it's they are all very related. I think in the end, what is the deep relationship with floor time is the strength-based developmental approach, and there certainly are similarities between these. Though I have to say that I don't think anybody who's floor time trained or doing floor time will be very, very happy with a baseline program like the Play Academy. One thing I would like to say is that we align very closely to the parent-mediated social communication focus. So in a sense, our focus on the child is very much aligned to the evidence base of the pediatric autism communication therapy that I mentioned. So when we look at making space for all the communicative signals of the child, we align with that evidence base, and we're adding in this second dimension of the parents feeling I can contribute something here through my own play and coming into this dialogue. So that sets it apart. And I think that's where it again relates very much to parental initiatives and, you know, what you start playing. So I would say they're all related. And the main thing is, how do parents feel the fit is for them? You know, very often parents ask me, Nicholas, are you anti-behavioral programs? And Nicholas, would you recommend us to do this now? And I'm always saying, do try everything out. I've had so many parents who at a certain stage in their child's development found something particularly helpful. Just today, a parent said, the first book I read on ABA had some really useful stuff in there. I reject it to 90% now, but those things were gold nuggets. So never, ever think about, you know, the boxes of certain paradigms and program. You know, I always think parents should be encouraged to go shopping around and find that perfect fit at the perfect stage of their child's development, what is important to them as a family. That should always be our primary call.
Great, thank you. I wanted to just check if Andrew is on. I think you should be able, you have control to unmute. Just want to check if you're
Let's see if it works.
Can
you hear me? Did it work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Yeah. So yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining. So the question was really more sort of from your perspective and viewpoint, what were some of your key takeaways or interests from the research that was presented today?
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. My
Yeah.
sister's name is Sonia, so
Okay.
I'm right home with Sonia's. I think if I can boil it down, one of my biggest takeaways certainly is that when parents are given the assumption that their relationship with their child is central to their child's growth and development, period. When that's the starting point, and when parents constantly get that message of that it's not about me and what I'm doing as a professional in my magic tool chest that's going to really have the biggest long-term impact on a child's progress, things can change quickly. And I think we have a lot of work to do in the field to shift things more in that direction. And so it was just uplifting, inspiring to hear that through the First Steps program, when that happens and parents are continually given that message that you already have existing strengths and abilities and wonderful knowledge and moments of just intuitive connection with your kids, and that is gold. And so we're just going to keep focusing on that, spotlighting that, and actually believe in you. And I think when professionals can show up in that way, enormous things can happen in terms of parents feeling more confident and capable and hopeful about what's possible with their kids.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It actually made me think probably any parent, regardless of the status of their child, probably could use some of the coaching and techniques that are offered. I think I also found it really interesting the two therapists working together, and even from their perspective that they saw value in it. So I thought that was really interesting coming out of the research. So there's more to learn even in the support. I'm sorry, I have massive fireworks going off behind me, so hopefully you guys can't hear them, but they're a bit distracting. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your insight. There was a question that came up. I'm actually very curious about this too. So Theodora, there was a question as to whether or not there would be a First Steps program for adults. Do we have thoughts on that? Is Theodora still on with us, actually?
Yeah.
Oh, she is. Okay.
Probably just needs to unmute, I think.
Oh, okay. Here I am.
Okay, there you are. Yeah.
My apologies. I couldn't.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm not distracted. I just have a very anxious dog on my lap, and outside it's like a battlefield with the fireworks. Sorry. Well, I didn't think about it. It's a very good question. But
could be called Last Steps, but either way, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have an answer. That's the truth. But
yeah,
I think it's very important because the issue of sensory sensitivity and motor coordination and the reciprocity with affective and emotional expression came from an extensive literature review which the late Colwyn Trevarthen did with his colleague Belafit Bhatt. And they've examined a range of studies across all ages. It wasn't just with young children. For me, however, this issue of sensory sensitivity and motor coordination and affective emotional expression, it hit something which I knew from practice it was very important. And that's why First Step built on this principle. But I suppose it does. And perhaps I will just refer to Porges' polyvagal theory. And they have developed a whole program of support which is based on strengthening the neurological system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, based on this sensory sensitivity and motor coordination. But, well, I don't know. Perhaps there is something there, but I don't have the answer.
Yeah, no, there probably is something that could be done, but it needs a different approach.
It's beyond the limit of transforming autism.
Yes, this is true.
At this stage, yeah.
Yes. There was a question about access. You know, how do we think about providing support to parents who might not have always the time? You know, they might be single parents working multiple jobs, and are there thoughts about how we could structure programs so that they could participate or get some benefit from it if they're not able to maybe commit fully in the way that we see parents who are able to take time to do it? So I might just put it out there to anybody from the panel if you have thoughts on if there are things that could be done to support those parents.
I'm happy to start off, Sonia, if it's helpful, and then I think it'd be great for Guy and maybe Nicholas to comment as well. You know, what you describe is in the question is what we get every day from parents who approach us. You know, many are single parents, many are only just managing to cope with their day-to-day routines and life. And we totally understand that a program isn't the only solution for everybody. You know, look, we're fairly new to the autism world. You know, we're only a couple of years old. We're developing programs as we go to feedback that we get from parents and families. And I think you raise a really good point that, you know, is there a way of turning this into bite-sized chunks that people can access, you know, a couple of weeks at a time based on a specific issue? You know, I'm sure there must be some of our lighter touch programs are worth talking about. Confident Autism Parenting is an hour online. I know that's a stretch for some parents too, but definitely worth looking at. And there you'll be working with peers, other families who are experiencing the challenges you're experiencing. We've got small group work we can offer as well, and we can offer individual consultations. So, you know, we want to get out there as far as we can and help as many parents as we can. But, you know, we hear you and the difficulties of coming on a program. It isn't always easy. I see Theodora's got a hand up too.
Yes, I'm thinking about the first steps. It's not the focus only on the child, is on parents as well. And perhaps first steps, it's most appropriate for parents who think or they don't have time, because it addresses their own needs as well. Just before starting working with a child, all along the idea was for parents to get ready to identify their own experiences, their own challenges, and moving on. I know that it may seem, oh, it's quite a lot of commitment, but if they have a good understanding of first steps, they may consider it, because it does start from parents' own challenges as well. Because if you don't resolve your own challenges, either time, resources, anxiety, trauma, or whatever, it's very difficult to work with your child. Yeah.
I think, Andrew, I think you have your hand up. If there's more you wanted to contribute, then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, as long as my mic is still working.
It is. Yep.
I think it's such an important question, and I would say that still as a field we have a really long way to go here. So parents, regardless of their circumstances, are always doing lots of stuff at home with their kids every day. Even if they're working multiple jobs, there are moments, everyday routines, activities, whether it's feeding, dressing, bathing, right? Particularly with younger children, there are many, many everyday family activities that are already established that families are just doing with their kids every day. And our job, I think, as professionals, is to pay a lot more attention to what families are already doing right now every day. And actually, that in and of itself becomes whatever we want to call it, the intervention, the support, right? We did it backwards in the field, right? We came in with our established, here's how we play. Play is fantastic. It's amazing. But many families can't even begin to think about playing with their kids because they're just grinding through the day, every day, trying to get their kids fed and dressed and all of these things. So we have to take many steps back sometimes and learn first about what families do every day and really support parents and kids to be able to just communicate more, connect more, and for actually kids to be able to do all of these wonderful developmental steps in the context of those everyday moments. And so I think, again, that's what we as a field have to do more of, instead of saying we have a great manual about how to play well with your kids. So I think that we're doing that and learning how to do that, but we're maybe sort of 30 or 40 years too late in terms of how the field got set up. But I have hope in us that we can shift and evolve.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think those are all really valid points. Nicholas, we have, well, we're at time, but I see you have your hand up if you want to say 2 quick things. You're on mute. Sorry.
I just wanted to add one short thing, because it's very, very beautiful what Tracy, Theodora, and especially also Andrew now shaped. I wanted to add in one aspect that is, for me, paramount, which is this community of support. One aspect that families express to me daily in my consultancy is how alone they feel with everything. And I think that is grinding you down so much when you just feel you've got nobody to rely on, nobody to help. So I think partially what we're trying to do with different pathways through a supportive environment like Transforming Autism tries to offer programs, tries to offer parent portal, tries to offer parent groups, workshops. All these things are essentially also providing a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And I would just say that that aspect of undoing families' sense of aloneness through asking people to help. Maybe I've got a lot of people having found a babysitter because they wanted to do confident autism parenting course because they needed somebody to look out for the kid. And so they started reaching out, asking for help, extending. Some families on the courses actually start helping each other. So I just want to stress this aspect of that, you know, being alone with autistic children can sometimes exasperate your sense of feeling there's nobody out there. And I think it's really important that this community of support surrounds you, and you feel that you have a sense of belonging with people.
Great, thank you. Hopefully you can still hear me because I feel like okay. Roger, do you mind just moving to the very last slide? The next one? Okay, so just real quick, because I know we are a couple minutes over. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who presented, to everybody who helped prepare and to put this conference on, and most importantly to those who attended and engaged. We hope it was valuable to give you a sense for what Transforming Autism does, who we are, and ways that could potentially support you or ways that you could support us, depending on the view that you're coming in with. I did just want to call out on the slides, which we are going to send out. There's contact details on here. There is a Bright Start annual conference on early childhood that is going to be on November 13th to the 15th, which you can still sign up for. And I believe Lucy is going to be presenting research there. So definitely sign up and attend that if you have time. And then for those who are interested in the online community, you can see here community manager at transformingautism.org is how you can reach out. And there's other, general inquiries and family support emails as well. So thank you all again so much for taking the time to participate this evening. And we hope we get to work more with you in the future. Thank you.